As Wura stood at the doorway, staring at Kunle the way you stare at a lizard that fell from the ceiling right into your soup. The nurse cleared her throat gently. Madam, is this your husband? Wura nodded. Yes, that's him. Another nurse said softly. He was unconscious when they brought him in, but he has been stabilized. Wura put a hand on her chest and pretended to be worried. Ah, God of mercy, oh. But inside her mind, she said, yes, thank your God you're still alive. Because if you died, I will still deal with you in the spirit world, stupid man. So they guided her inside the ward. She walked closer to the bed slowly, doing face like a Nollywood actress in a prayer scene. Her brows squeezed together and her mouth was pouted. One nurse said to her, Madam, please talk to him. Sometimes they can hear. Wura said okay and asked for a little privacy with her darling husband. When she was finally alone with him, she leaned closer a little bit and pressed his bandaged arm so tightly that he winced, even in his not so conscious state. Wura smiled and moved up to his wrapped head. She touched it firmly again and he winced in pain. Then she whispered in his ears, Kunle, this is only the beginning of your doom. So pray to God you stay alive to witness the rest. Okay? A few seconds later, the doctor walked in with a file under his arm. He looked at Wura and said, Madam, he needs further treatment urgently. But before we proceed, you will need to make a deposit, please. Wura blinked. Deposit? For what exactly? For scans, drugs, surgery preparation, and emergency care, the doctor replied. How much are we talking, Seth? Wura asked gently. 800k deposit for a start, madam. The remaining balance will be done as we go. Ha! If Wura had been chewing chewing gum, she would have swallowed it immediately. 800 guinea. She held her chest dramatically and said, Doctor, even if you tear me into pieces, you will not see shish. I don't have that kind of money. The nurse frowned. Madam, this is an emergency. We are not joking. Wura nodded seriously. Yes, I understand. But we haven't even eaten proper food today. My children and I managed Gary this morning. So where exactly am I going to bring 800,000 naira from? The nurses looked at each other and the doctor adjusted his glasses and said, Can you call any family member at least? Wura sighed. I have called. Nobody's speaking. Even the ones that picked said they don't have money. But something must be done immediately, madam. It's due protocol. Wura nodded again. I agree. Something must be done. But like I said, sir, I do not have shishi. There was a short, awkward silence. Then the nurse said, Okay, madam, can we at least use his phone to transfer? Maybe he has some money in his account. Wura laughed so loudly. Did you just say phone? Nah, I don't know any of his passwords. I have never touched his phone in this marriage. Haba, the nurse sighed. They all stood there, thinking. Meanwhile, Kunle was still lying there, like an unused furniture in a showroom. Then suddenly, his phone started ringing on the bedside table. Everybody turned. And then, Wura encouraged the nurse to pick it up. Caller ID was showing Shola. The nurse answered, Hello. And immediately, shouting came from the other side like a market woman. Where is he? That stupid man deceived me and ran away. I said, where is Kunle? The nurse blinked in surprise and said, Madam, the man you're calling is here in the hospital. He was in a serious accident. There was a little silence and then panic followed. What? Hospital? Ha! Me, I'm also in serious trouble, oh. I'm being held captive. I need money right now. The nurse was confused and she asked, "And who are you, please?" "I'm his girlfriend." Wura looked at the nurse sharply with a very serious face. The nurse continued gently, "Madam, do you have access to his bank apps?" Yes, I do," Shola answered immediately, too fast and too eager. "I know all his pins and all his passwords. Everything. In fact, I handle his transfers most times." Wura blinked in shock and pinched herself. So this man did not trust his own wife with his phone passwords and his pins, but trusted his side chick with the entire bank security details. Madness! Then the nurse went ahead to quickly explain the plan to Shola. She said they would transfer money using the details she would provide, then keep some for the hospital and send her some to help her settle whatever it is she was involved in. Shola agreed instantly. In fact, she was already shouting the amount she needed with urgency. "I need 800k, oh, urgently. I have only about 50k here. So I need about 750 on top." Wura almost burst out laughing, but then she covered it with a cough. She stood there silently, nodding like a woman who was hearing gist about someone else's husband. Then the nurse brought out a piece of paper and biro and said, "Madam, please call out the pins slowly." And Shola went ahead to call out the digits confidently. As she was calling them out, the nurse was writing. So when she finished, the nurse turned and handed the paper over to Wura. And she said, "Madam, you can now operate it." And they gave her a little privacy. Wura collected the paper and the phone, sat down gently on the chair and logged in. The first account opened and her eyes almost bulged out. She saw 5 million naira. 5 whole million. Her mouth fell open. She almost screamed, but she must coordinate herself properly in order to execute her plans. She clicked the second account and saw 500,000. That is 500,000. This same man that looked her in the eye and said, "Wura, I no even get 50k to give you." What a wicked and heartless man. Next, she decided to enter his transaction history to see things for herself. And that was when cinema opened properly. Multiple transactions to different girls. 30k was sent to Choma, 50k was sent to Chidinma, 1 million sent to Shola. Transfers were just jumping like grasshopper. Meanwhile, in her own home, there was no oil, no rice, and no cooked food. Only faith and soaked gari. Chai! Wura nodded slowly and said, Okay. Then she went ahead to pay the hospital deposit first, 500,000. Payment successful. The nurses sighed in relief. Oh, thank God. Then they left and they went ahead to start processing further treatments. Then Wura went back into the account. The remaining money was still sitting there, breathing fine. Then she went into a heartless mode. She went back into the app and she made her own transfer. She transferred every single remaining naira straight into her own account. She made sure she drained all of Kunle's account to the last 1 naira until Kunle's account balance was looking like a hospital patient after blood donation. Empty. Once she was done and confirmed that the last alert had entered her phone successfully, she smiled. Then, immediately, another idea entered her head, sharp. A very wicked one at that. She looked at Kunle lying there, bandaged like a Christmas chicken, still semi-conscious. Then she looked at his phone again and said, since you like borrowing trouble and wickedness, let me help you borrow it very well. She went straight to his app store and started her mission of downloading loan apps. The first loan app downloaded, registered, approved 50k loan. Piam. Loan app number 2 managed to give her 80k. Loan app 3, 100k. Loan app 4, 200k. She did not even read terms and conditions. There was no time. I mean, Kunle had been ignoring marriage terms and conditions for 5 good years. And now, it was time for him to meet the real consequences. She kept on downloading, kept collecting, and kept transferring to her own account with immediate effect. And by the time she was done, Kunle had borrowed from heaven and earth through his own phone, and every single kobo followed the same road, straight into Wura's account. She wiped her hands on her wrapper like someone that just finished mixing juju. Then she pulled a chair, sat beside his bed, and wrote him a long, calm letter. The most dangerous school type. She wrote, Kunle, I saw everything. The girls, the money, the lies, the hunger you left me and your children to manage, the millions you were spraying on strangers while your son was eating garri without sugar. Today, I paid your hospital bill with your money, and I also took the rest. I also took loans in your name. You will wake up and meet all of it. And it will interest you to know that I am done with this marriage, or whatever this was in the first place. I am just no longer your wife. Don't look for me. Don't look for the children. When you're ready to behave like a father for 1 full year with steady support, then we'll talk about visitation. Until then, we don't exist in your world again. Sign divorce papers and send through your lawyer. I will sign them and return. Your lost wife, Wura. She folded the letter neatly and placed it beside his bed. Then she walked to the nurse's station and said, Nurse, thank God my husband is stable now. I have children at home. I have to go, she said with a very calm face. They nodded in pity, and she left the hospital without turning back. Back at home, she moved like a soldier on accident. She packed every essential belonging of her and the kids, told them they were going on a very long vacation, and carried them straight to her parents' town without telling anybody, not even Mama Shade, her closest neighbor. Meanwhile, Kunle was still on that hospital bed, breathing through tubes and dreaming rubbish dreams, and Shola was still facing serious consequences of eating what she could not afford. Because the girl was so dumb, forming a big girl and living above her means, when in fact she was broke to stupor. That 1 million naira Kunle sent her earlier that day, did not even breathe for 5 minutes in her account. You know why? Because before that day, Shola had already been owing people left, right and center. Makeup vendor, hairstylist, boutique owner, wig seller, meat seller, even one girl that sold her contact lens on credit were all on her neck. So immediately the alert entered, piam, she scattered it like Christmas rice, doing transfers here and there. By night, the 1 million had turned into ashes. So when hotel security locked her in their office, demanding payments for everything she ate, her pocket was dry and chapped like Hamatan lips. She begged, called everyone she knew. She even promised to sell her wigs. But the hotel management simply told her, Madam, since you cannot afford to pay us cash, you will have to work it out for us. And that was how Madam Soft Life Boropose entered into hard labor. For 1 full month, Shola washed plates from morning till night. No breaks, so heavy, oily plates. Plates that had seen pepper. Her expensive nails broke one by one. Her lashes fell off and her wig closure looked shaved. Because suffer, the kind of suffer the hotel put her through. By the second week, she had seen enough shege. And the funniest part was that every night she kept on calling Kunle with anger and frustration. This man is very mad. Can you imagine? Do you know what you put me into? If you like, don't answer me. When you come out of that hospital, I will still show you pepper. Rubbish. But Kunle couldn't even pick calls because he himself was fighting for his life on the hospital bed. The day he finally woke up properly after surgery, his whole body was weak, his head was heavy, and his phone was lying beside him. And the first thing he did was to call Wura. Once, twice, 10 times, but there was no answer. He called again and again until his fingers started shaking. No answer. Then he started calling everyone he could remember. Friends, office people, neighbors, even Mama Shade, their neighbor. But nobody knew where Wura was. He even called Wura's parents. But they pretended they didn't know where Wura was either. Then he remembered Shola and tried calling her, and she picked up immediately. Immediately Kunle heard her voice. He felt some sort of relief. Shola, oh thank God. God, please just come to the hospital, okay? I don't know, I haven't been able to speak to anyone I know since I woke up. Everything feels so strange. Shola laughed hysterically and said, hey, so wait. You think I will come and meet you after everything you did to me? You nearly destroyed my life. I suffered through my teeth because of you, useless man. Kunle was confused. Shola, I was in an accident. I've been on the hospital. That is your business. She cut him off immediately. Don't you ever call me again in your life, or you would wish you never woke up in the first place. Rubbish. She dropped the call. Kunle stared at the phone like somebody that just lost oxygen. He had never felt more alone or confused. Later on, a nurse came and gave him the letter his wife wrote, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He was so heartbroken and so terrified at the same time. A few days later, hospital finally discharged him with a bill that nearly stopped his heart the second time. He was weak, broke, and confused. He managed to call his friend, who agreed to borrow him some money with interest. So, after payment, he dragged himself back home. When he opened the door, it hit him. There was no Wura nor the children, just an empty house. That was the moment Kunle finally understood that his real problem had just started. It took him 1 full month of trying and trying before Wura finally picked his call. 1 month of calling like a madman. 1 month of begging everybody he knew to help him speak with Wura. 1 month of sleeping on the edge of regrets. That night, when Wura finally answered his call, his voice was no longer the voice of a man that used to shout, "I no get money." This time, the voice was cracked. It was thin and finished. "Wura, abeg, please my darling, forgive me." He broke down on the phone, crying. Wura then informed him sharply that he had only 5 minutes. So if he wanted to get down to business, okay. If not, he should continue his shenanigan. So he had to put himself in order immediately. And that was when he finally told her that The 5 million naira she took from his account was not his personal savings. It was company money. Money that they gave him to buy solar panels for a big project. Now the company was on his neck, threatening him with police and giving him a payment deadline. As Wura listened, her face did not change. She didn't feel even a tiny weeny bit of pity for him. In fact, she wished she took more money from more loan apps. After listening to him, she just said calmly, "Good, very good. Now you finally know how it feels when money is chasing you the way hunger chased me and my children in your house." But she did not stop there. She continued with her terms and conditions. "If you know what is good for you, Kunle, you better go and hustle. Because you are going to send money for your children every month. I'm talking school fees, feeding, clothing, house rent, everything. And you will do this for 1 full year without failing for even 1 month. If you miss 1 month, just forget your children. Am I understood?" Omo, Kunle agreed immediately. Oh, no time at all. Because he knew Wura and he knew she meant every word. At that point, even if she had asked him to fetch water from Lagos Lagoon with baskets, he would have agreed. So from that day, his suffering truly started. He worked like someone paying for ancestral debts. Morning till night, extra jobs, weekend jobs, borrowing on end, selling properties, begging friends. Everything he touched became repayment money. So every month, without fail, he made sure he sent money for the children. Not because he suddenly became responsible, but because fear was now his landlord and he knew what was at stake. So he did not need any prophet to tell him to cooperate. And just like that, a whole long year passed. A whole year of suffering. A whole year of remembering how foolish and stupid he was. Of regretting his choices and his actions. Of living from hand to mouth. Of living without his family. He regretted taking them for granted. And let me tell you, my paddies, he will keep paying for his sins for the rest of his life. At the end of 1 year, Wura finally allowed him to see the children. But it was just for once in a month. And even then, it was supervised. No free movement and no long visits. In fact, no nonsense. Kunle thought that maybe he was getting close to, being accepted back into Wura's life. But he had never been so wrong. Because the very month she started allowing the visit was the same month Wura filed for divorce. When the court papers reached him, his body went cold. He rushed to his phone to call her immediately. "Wura, after all I have suffered, you still want divorce?" Wura replied gently, "My dear, your punishment and my freedom are not the same thing. You cannot cage me down anymore, okay? I need my sanity, my health, and my freedom." And that was how everything ended. Today, Wura runs her own small but steady business. Her children attend good school, they eat well, and they laugh freely. No more shouting or begging or anxiety, just pure freedom and peace. And for Kunle, he is now the man that knows the price of his foolishness. He sees his children once a month, he pays regularly, and he's still begging to be allowed to see them more often. But he will forever remember that the woman he thought was weak was the one that taught him a life lesson he will always live to learn. The end. And we've come to the end of today's story. So, my paddies, I would really like to, know your take on this story. What are the morals you learned from the story? What is your take generally from the story? Did Wura do too much? If you were in her shoes, what punishment would you have given to Kunle? And what punishment would you have given to Shola? I would like to read from all of you in the comment section below. Please don't watch without commenting and liking. Also, don't forget to share this video with everyone you know, okay? If you've not subscribed, now will be the perfect time to do so. And remember, don't let anyone dim your shine, okay? Ngwanu, bye.